Deja Kelly and others that want to get this thing done and want to play games. So for you to say everybody's on the same page was a complete lie. Now, here's Adam Silver. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said Tuesday night he is tracking WNBA collective bargaining sessions very closely, and that he and Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum would both be willing to join the prolonged negotiations to finalize a deal. That means when Mark Tatum is getting involved, the guy I put in the thumbnail.
Adam Silver entered the WNBA's collective bargaining talks without acting as an impartial mediator. The NBA commissioner was very clear about his position. In order to play games, players must make concessions. Does that sound familiar? When Caitlin Clark broke with the Players Association 2 weeks ago, she said precisely that. And now, as the league's co-founders are frantically trying to save their off-season endeavor, the most influential person in professional basketball is supporting her position.
Silver also said he has great relationships with many of the players and believes the sides are on course for a solution. The current 40-day extension ends January 9th, and that date is fastly approaching. Okay, he says, I remain optimistic we'll get something done, but whether that means I'm physically sitting at the table for the negotiation, Silver said. And again, I speak for Mark as well. We have been involved with this league for 3 decades. In essence, I care enormously about it and want it to be successful, and I want the players to feel fairly treated as well. And I realize there's been a disconnect, especially over the last few months in these negotiations.
Pay close attention to Breanna Stewart's response. She claims that their current course of action is not helping them. Translation: the hardball approach used by the Players Association has not worked. In October of last year, they opted out of the CBA, anticipating a revenue-sharing compromise from the league. Rather, they have burned through 2 extensions, seen the league announce plans for growth without them, and now have to deal with the possibility that the NBA commissioner will be seated across from them at the negotiation table. Stewart expresses her desire for Adam Silver to participate in the talks, but pay attention to how she puts it. She wants to make sure that everyone is aware of the players' desires and emotions. Someone who is confident in their negotiation position would not use such rhetoric. That person is hoping Silver will put pressure on the proprietors to concede. However, Silver had already extended his hand. He has not come to impose a 50-50 split. His goal is to compel a compromise so that games can be played.
And how we feel. And now let's get to the actual video so we can get more dialogue of what Breanna Stewart had to say. They trying to hardball. The owners aren't going to give in to all this nonsense. They're trying to hardball. These players are. And at the end of the day, Adam Silver is with Caitlin Clark. Y'all need to compromise and get this damn deal done and stop playing games.
Hey, Stewie. Good to see you. I had 2 questions. The first, Adam Silver spoke ahead of the Cup and said that if necessary, he'd be up for coming to the bargaining table, him and Mark Tatum. I'm just wondering, do you think that would be beneficial? Would there be value to having Adam's presence at the bargaining table?
This is where things become more difficult for the players. Stewart acknowledges that both can be true in tandem and that everyone can achieve their goals, but she insists that something reciprocal must occur first. Consider the implications of that. For 2 months, the Players Association insisted that revenue sharing be a non-negotiable concept. They made fun of Silver's October remarks regarding absolute amounts versus percentages in an Instagram post. They presented this as a struggle for justice and equity. Additionally, their most well-known leader is now openly admitting that compromise entails both parties making concessions. That represents a significant departure from the union's official position. Additionally, players like Nafi Sakir and Breanna Stewart find it unmatched, since the more these talks go on, the more clear it is that they are not fighting for everyone equally.
What we're doing right now isn't really getting us anywhere, so if that means that Adam and Mark need to come to the table, we're more than happy to have that, and just making sure everybody understands what we want and how we feel, and realizing that both things can be true together. Everybody can agree and get what they want out of this, but there has to be some I don't know, mutual, some things in common happening first. So yeah, if Adam wants to come, I would love to have him.
The actual fracture is revealed at this point. Stewart is questioned regarding Project B, a brand new 3-on-3 league that will operate from fall to April. It directly competes with Unrivaled's winter window due to that scheduling. And observe Stewart's reaction. According to her, Project B saw what worked at Unrivaled and wanted to be part of it in their own way. She then switches to discussing how Unrivaled's equity stake, resources, and ability to maintain gamers in one city make it unique. Here's what she doesn't say, though. The fact that Project B's schedule is more in line with the WNBA season is something she ignores. She makes no mention of players who wish to remain abroad before returning for the entire WNBA season have that choice today. To Unrivaled's advantage, she simply brushes it off as imitation. That is marketing, not analysis. Additionally, it reveals the conflict of interest that has guided these talks from the beginning.
And the season is going to run from fall to April, which is in direct competition with Unrivaled. What were your immediate thoughts when you heard about Project B? And what's the long-term answer for the landscape of women's basketball? Is it to have one premier league? Is it to continue developing all of these leagues? Like, what is truly the answer? What is the ideal world for the women's basketball landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think my immediate thoughts when I saw Project B, I was kind of like, well, they saw what worked. You know, they saw the success that we had here at Unrivaled, and they wanted to be a part of that in their own way and try to do it. But at the same time, knowing, what we're doing here.
Play this section once more. According to Stewart, there must be a world where everyone is in agreement, because if the WNBA season isn't coherent with everything else, then everything can't happen together. However, she acknowledges that they haven't arrived yet and that her current level of attention is unparalleled. The issue with one answer is that all WNBA players are represented in negotiations by the Players Association. However, the players in charge of those talks are simultaneously in charge of a rival league that wants the winter months to be protected and gains from a shorter WNBA season. 3 weeks ago, Caitlin Clark called this out. She stated that because games must be played, players must make concessions. It was obvious what was implied. A few players are giving priority to their off-season endeavors rather than the league where they are employed. According to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, every player was in agreement. That was untrue. Players that supported Clark's stance included Deja Kelly and others. Adam Silver is now taking over, as this conflict is the reason the negotiations have halted.
Making sure the resources, people are staying in one city. Yeah, we'll have like a tour stop in Philly this year, but making sure that we're prioritizing players and their bodies and their health. And as for a long-term solution, I don't know the answer, because it's like now you have all these options. You have Unrivaled, you have WNBA potentially happening in its normal season.
What follows is as follows. Silver stated that he is open to participating in the talks, as is Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum. The NBA is handling this as a major business crisis when Mark Tatum becomes involved. Tatum is in charge of worldwide strategy and league operations. He is absent from regular labor talks. When the league wants to safeguard its investment and transactions are at risk, he shows up. The WNBA is now undergoing a historic expansion. Next season, Golden State will be added, followed by Toronto and Portland in 26. The league just inked new media agreements that will generate $2.2 billion over 11 years, beginning in 25. They are unable to afford a work stoppage or a strained bond with their players during this stage of development. However, they also cannot establish a precedent in which the institution is managed by the prisoners, which is what a 50-50 revenue split would entail for a league that is still losing money. Silver is therefore come to enforce a deal that both parties can accept and forward with, rather than to negotiate or consider other options. Players' salaries will rise significantly as part of this arrangement. Better travel accommodations and increased benefits are likely to be part of it. In place of gross revenue, it may even involve some kind of revenue sharing based on profitability standards. The Players Association's demand for 30% of revenue, independent of league finances, will not be included. Moreover, this is why it matters for Caitlin Clark in particular. She broke with the union because she realized that the WNBA's growth is real but fragile and that the league needs to take advantage of this moment with maximum games and maximum exposure. Anything that threatens the season or creates negative headlines undermines that growth. Clark understands this because she is the one driving the growth. Her games averaged 1.2 million viewers this season, while the league average without her was 400,000. She is being realistic about where the leverage actually exists. Silver agrees, which is why he specifically mentioned increased success and absolute dollar increases league is expanding. But he's also emphasizing that growth is expressed in monetary terms rather than percentages. This season, the WNBA made almost $200 million. $60 million, or 30% of total, is divided among 144 players. That amounts to an average of $417,000 per athlete. However, the league also has to pay for facilities, team expenses, expansion fees, and operating costs. At 30%, the math is flawed. With the existing financial structure of the league, it hardly functions at 15%. Silver is aware of this as the NBA underwent a similar transformation. The NBA didn't reach 50-50 revenue sharing until it was extremely prosperous and stable financially for decades. In its 28th year, the WNBA has only recently begun to improve its viability, demanding NBA caliber. Nowadays, demanding a penthouse after moving out of your parents' basement is equivalent to revenue splits. However, by focusing on justice and fairness rather than economics, the Players Association put itself in a difficult situation. Rather than framing it as a commercial issue, they presented it as a gender issue. They are now unable to retreat without appearing to have sold out. Kathy Angelberg lied about all players being in agreement because of this. She had to keep up the appearance of unity because if it breaks, the entire negotiation plan falls apart.
Office. Silver said ahead of NBA Cup final in Las Vegas. I talk to the people who are at the negotiating table on a daily basis, and I've said before, we, the NBA, WNBA collective, acknowledge that our players deserve to be paid significantly more than they have so far based on the increased success of the league, and it's just a question now of finding a meeting of the minds in terms of what is a fair deal.
However, it was already cracked. Players that genuinely desire to play basketball cracked it after Caitlin Clark did. Adam Silver is presently going to force both parties to embrace reality in order to fully break it. In actuality, WNBA players should be paid more. In actuality, the league cannot afford to compensate them using revenue ratios that disregard profitability. Compromise entails acknowledging both realities at the same time. Observe what transpires during the ensuing 3 weeks. The Players Association will either approve an agreement that does not involve income sharing but does include large raises. Alternatively, they will witness Adam Silver and Mark Tatum enter the room and impose a structure that neither party like but both can endure. Because it is the true nature of compromise. Everyone receives something, but not everybody gets what they want. They can put up with in order for the league to advance. According to Breanna Stewart, her current level of attention is unparalleled. That explains why these conversations are at a standstill. The players who ought to be most concerned with optimizing WNBA expansion are instead preoccupied with their side project. Players like Caitlin Clark, who are committed to the WNBA's expansion, are urging compromise. Additionally, the commissioner of the league is planning to impose a resolution while supporting Clark. It doesn't matter who is right or wrong. It's about who is aware of the current situation. For the first time in its history, the WNBA is gaining momentum. One player is the main force behind that momentum, drawing casual viewers to a league they disregarded for many years. CBA discussions and revenue-sharing formulae are irrelevant to such fans. Watching Caitlin Clark play basketball is important to them. And those casual viewers will vanish as fast as they came if these negotiations lead to a truncated season, a delayed start, or any other interruption to that experience. The leverage is that Silver is taking over because of this. He is supporting Clark's stance because of this. Because a labor conflict that reminds casual fans of why they didn't watch women's basketball before Clark arrived is the worst possible conclusion for WNBA growth. That regression is unaffordable for the league. The players are also unable to afford it, even though some of them are still unaware of it. Thus, the question arises, will the players before Silver forces a compromise, Does the association accept one? Or will they coerce him and run the danger of appearing to put their off-season league ahead of the primary product? Because that's how the story is constructed. Furthermore, it makes no difference what the actual CBA terms are once that narrative gains traction. The harm has been done. 3 weeks remain before January 9th. The time is running out. Additionally, Adam Silver recently stated that he will not allow this to continue into the season. There will be a deal, one way or another. The players' willingness to accept it or whether it is imposed upon them is the only question. They're beginning to understand they don't have the leverage they believed they had, according to what Breanna Stewart said. Now, instead of waiting for the win they desired, we'll see if they are astute enough to accept the available win. When Silver and Tatum take a seat at the table, what do you think will happen? Does the union give up on income sharing right away, or do they try again? More significantly, how does Caitlin Clark handle this after the agreement is revealed? Does she remain silent, or does she make it obvious that she was correct all along? Leave a comment with your guesses. And explain if you believe the Players Association handled this correctly.